Which of the following theories of international trade does not imply full specialization?
Smart pick. Heckscher-Ohlin theory is the correct choice.
What happened to the price of goods and quantity when tax was imposed in international trade?
Perfect. Price equal to increase. Quantity equal to decrease is the correct choice.
Who advocated the theory of comparative cost advantage doctrine of international trade?
On track? David Ricardo is the correct answer.
The opening or expansion of international trade usually affects all members of society.
Correct. Most positively but some negatively is the right answer. Any commercial transaction that crosses the borders of two or more nations is known as. You got it? Your choice, international business, is right. International trade tends to cause welfare losses to at least some groups in a country. Clear logic. Your choice, the less mobile country's resources, is sound and 100% true. A primary reason why nations conduct international trade is because of differences in. You're right. Resource availability is the correct answer. International trade in intermediate goods is a major part of total merchandise trade. Good job. Your answer true works well here. The reason international trade is controlled has to do with how economics relates to. Excellent. Politics is a brilliant choice.
Dash examines the reasons for and the effects of restrictions on international trade.
Right choice. International trade policy is the best answer. International trade can have important effects on the distribution of income because you chose different industries employ different factors of production. And it is correct. Declining costs per unit of output results from international trade, especially if. Great thinking. Economies of scale exist for producers is the right choice. A government policy or restriction that limits international trade is known as a. Exactly. Trade barrier makes sense and it is right choice. International trade forces domestic firms to become more competitive in terms of. Valid point. All of the above is true. How many main impacts are there that shape international trade for every nation? Bravo, 3 is the answer. What type of international investment can describe as a financial investment? Excellent choice. Foreign portfolio investment is the right answer. Dash and quotas are the main ways the United States government controls trade. Strong choice. Tariffs is the right answer. The rate at which goods are exchanged at the international is defined as dash. Solid response. The exchange rate is a valid choice. Economists believe which of the following are benefits of international trade? Right again. All of these are true is a valid answer. What is the primary reason behind countries engaging in international trade? Nice selection. To benefit from specialization and comparative advantage is the correct and valid answer. The Federal Reserve keeps a measure of the international value of the dollar. Nice work. You chose trade-weighted value of $1, and it is correct. Which of these does not impact the international trade for every nation? Good thinking. Trade affecting international affairs is the right answer. Which of the following is not a major themes of international economics? Well picked. Public finance is the correct answer. Which of followings is not the subject matter of international finance? Sharp thinking. Basics and gains from trade is the right choice. The real income of domestic producers and consumers can be increased by. Nicely done. Technological progress and international trade is a solid answer. Which of the following is the gain to nations from international trade? Well reasoned. All the above is the correct choice. Which of the following is not a characteristic of international trade? Well done. Common currency is the right choice. Importance of the study of international economics. Select the wrong one. Correct response. Currency minting is the most accurate answer. First economist who introduced basic idea of international economics. Smart move. Hume is an accurate answer. International trade most often takes place because of differences in. Great job. Comparative advantage is the accurate answer. To focus on producing one thing to improve productivity is known as. On track. Specialization is the correct answer. Which of the following is not the advantages of international trade? Or. You got it? Your choice. Depletion of countries' reserves is right. Which element cannot move across boundary in international economic? Sharp thinking. Raw material and natural resources is the right choice. An important difference between tariffs and quotas is that tariffs. Right again. Generate tax revenue for the government is a valid answer. The factor endowment model of international trade was developed by. Well reasoned. Eli Hexter and Bertil Ohlin is the correct choice. To whom do you attribute the modern theory of international trade? Right choice. Ohlin is the best answer. International trade is logically associated with which assumption? Nice work. You chose resources are less mobile internationally than domestically, and it is correct. Restriction to regulate international commerce is called a dash. Exactly. Trade barrier makes sense, and it is right choice. The study for how people's needs and wants are provided is dash. Smart pick. Economics is the correct choice. International economics is an applied branch of dash economics. Correct response. Macro is the most accurate answer. What is engaging in trade without barriers? Most efficient. Excellent choice. Free trade is the right answer. International trade and domestic trade differ because of dash. Strong choice. All of the above is the right answer. Who purposed reciprocal demand theory of international trade? Well done. J. Smill is the right choice. The disadvantages and negative aspects of globalization are. Solid response. All of above is a valid choice. A resource that can't be replaced in a short period of time. Great job. Non-renewable resource is the accurate answer. A term that means there is not enough of something is dash. Smart move. Scarcity is an accurate answer.
This occurs when the supply is low and the demand is high.
Valid point. Scarcity is true.
The World Bank is an international organization to help.
Nice selection. Foster development through loans and advice is the correct and valid answer.
Name one important component of international economics.
You're right. International balance of trade is the correct answer.
Which of the following is not the objective of the IMF?
Perfect. To provide loan to private sectors is the correct choice.
The Dash Society is the creation of international trade.
Well picked. Modern industrial is the correct answer.
Attempts to explain the pattern of international trade.
Good job. Your answer have been a major focus of international economists works well here.
The following are international trade theories except
Good thinking. New trade is the right answer.
Comparative advantage is a contributing factor to Dash.
Nicely done. International trade is a solid answer.
International trade without government restrictions.
Excellent. Free trade is a brilliant choice.
What is the purpose of the World Trade Organization?
Clear logic. Your choice to promote and facilitate international trade is sound and 100% true.
These are the goals of horizontal FD, except Dash.
Great thinking. To specialize production on an international scale is the right choice.
Which one does not restrict international trade?
Correct. Trade deficits is the right answer.
All of these restrict international trade except
Bravo. Trade deficits is the answer.
A main advantage of specialization results from.
You chose economics of large-scale production, and it is correct.
What is another term for trade between nations?
Exactly. International trade makes sense, and it is right choice.
Which of the following is international trade?
Correct. Trade between countries is the right answer.
Benefits of international trade are limited to.
Good thinking. All goods but not services is the right answer.
A resource that Earth or people can replace is.
You're right. Renewable resource is the correct answer.
What two things made international trade easier?
Nice selection. Currency and exchange rates is the correct and valid answer.
International trade is based on the idea that
Excellent choice. Resources are less mobile internationally than our goods is the right answer.
Cost-benefit analysis of international trade.
well reasoned. Focuses attention on conflicts of interests between countries is the correct choice.
International economics is a dash economics.
Perfect. Normative is the correct choice.
What is engaging in trade with barriers?
Bravo. Protectionism is the answer.
A useful material found in the environment?
Excellent. Natural resource is a brilliant choice.
Which of the following statement is false?
Smart move. Protectionism is practiced only in domestic trade is an accurate answer.
International economics deals with dash.
You chose trade between countries around the world, and it is correct. International trade theory refers to. You got it. Your choice, the microeconomic aspects of international trade, is right. Which party does MC cooperate with?
Nice work. You chose all of the above, and it is correct.
What is the bot also referred to?
On track. The international trade balance is the correct answer.
The current account shows dash. Great thinking. International movement of goods and services is the right choice.
International trade concerns.
Well picked. Trade in goods and services is the correct answer. External trade is also called. Strong choice. Both is the right answer. A strong dollar leads to. Clear logic. Your choice, cheaper imports, is sound and 100% true. IBRD stands for dash.
Well done. International Bank for Reconstruction and Development is the right choice.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? Right again. Contact Narayan Changda is a valid answer.